The Golden State Warriors record with Jimmy Butler has now reached 14-1, and people are starting to look at the Golden State Warriors as a little bit different heading into the postseason. We're going to talk about the chances that Golden State Warriors have and what they need to do to maximize their potential success in the playoffs. Also use that to take a look at other contenders around the league and what are the things that they need to make the best case for them to win a title this year. We're going to talk about it all and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into the content for today, y'all. And the Warriors' record right now with Jimmy Butler is wild, right? And while I did think that Jimmy Butler would come and fit in well on that team, you got those aging vets that are all trying to prove something. I thought that would be great for this Golden State Warriors franchise. It's been even better than what I and many people were expecting. And now people are starting to ask themselves, just how far can the Golden State Warriors realistically go in the Western Conference in the postseason this year? And that's just the question there, right? When you look at the Golden State Warriors and what they've done so far, they've played well against good teams. They play well against bad teams. They have an amazing record like we just talked about. And they are a team that shot up so far from going outside of the play-in to being a team now that is sixth in the Western Conference, right? With wins lately over teams like New York, over Sacramento. They beat Detroit, which is another playoff team. They beat New York twice, actually, right? But there's still been some questionable wins in there against teams that aren't necessarily, the best level of competition. But this team is rocking and rolling. And you can't deny this team is playing with a much more poise than what they did earlier in the season. And so the question now lies in just how far can they go, right? And so when you look at this team, of course, with Steph, with Dre, the chemistry that they have, what Jimmy Butler has now added to that team as another dimension, over the last 10 games, the Golden State Warriors, over the last 20 games, the Golden State Warriors have the fourth best net rating in the game of basketball. They have the fifth best offensive rating, the third best defensive rating in the game of basketball. They are 13th in true shooting percentage, first in assist percentage. They are playing so good as a team, and you cannot deny that. And then when you factor in bringing Jonathan Kuminga back, he's had two solid games so far since returning. The last game he didn't necessarily shoot the ball efficiently, 3 of 8, but still with 10 points. This is a team that is seeming like they're gearing up and they can go on a little bit of run in the playoffs. What do they need, though, right? And this is going to lead us into the conversation on what other teams as well in upper echelon teams need. But I think it's going to be important for the Golden State Warriors to avoid the Denver Nuggets. Right now, that's who they'd face in the 6-3 matchup. I think if the Denver Nuggets get better, and they go up to number 2, and if the Golden State Warriors can face off against the Houston Rockets in round 1, I think that'll be a hugely entertaining playoff series, not just because of, the old vets versus the new young guys, but, the battle of coaches with Ime Udoka, Steve Kerr, things like that. But I think that also allows the Golden State Warriors to kind of get up to speed. Right now, I'm not saying that the Warriors are just going to mop the floor with the Houston Rockets, but I do think a young team, when you look at where they've gone from last year to this year, they're still a team that's still learning. And that's something that the Golden State Warriors, with the vets that they've had and the playoff runs that those vets have gone on, that they can really, take advantage of that Houston Rockets team. So that's if they can avoid the Denver Nuggets and maybe even the Los Angeles Lakers in the first round, that's going to be a long way to go for Golden State. I think that they can be a huge disruptor in the first round of this playoffs. You really got to look out for them. The Golden State Warriors are a team that really, I think, is going to surprise a lot of people in this postseason. But I know we started this off talking about the Warriors. I want to talk about some of the other teams and what they need, right? Another team that's kind of gone up and down over the course of the season. They were number 2 in the West, for a little while there. They dropped down. They're now number 4 in the West. And that is the Memphis Grizzlies, right? And the Grizzlies are a team that, while I understand what Ja Morant has done this season, playing kind of not a secondary role, facilitating more of those type of things, if the Memphis Grizzlies truly want to go on a deep playoff run, they're going to have to, Ja Morant is going to have to be a superstar for them once again. And he hasn't really been that, right? And I think he's going to have to step up and be the best player in a series, maybe even several of them, if they want to, right? I don't think that the Memphis Grizzlies can really get to where they're going to unless Ja Morant is playing like a top 5 to 10 player in this league. That's what they're going to need to do. And, it's been a while since Ja Morant was consistently playing at that level. So I think if the things are going to all come together for this Memphis Grizzlies team to really go far, it's going to come via Ja Morant. He's going to have to step up, and he's going to have to be a superstar in these playoffs if they really want to go far. For a team that I have doubts on in the Milwaukee Bucks, the thing with the Bucks is, right, if you look at what they need somebody else to step up. Giannis and Dame are having perfectly fine seasons. Giannis is having what, in some years would be MVP caliber seasons. Just Shea and Jokic have taken that and run with it. But I think that this team, as consistent as they have been at times in this Eastern Conference, they need an extra guy. They're going to need somebody to take off that pressure, and that's what they're hoping Kyle Kuzma was going to be, a better third option than what Chris Middleton was for that team at this point in his career. And because of that, they need Kyle Kuzma to step up. Kyle Kuzma is going to have a really good supplemental playoffs to what Dame and Giannis are able to do. If they really want to take that, I think I still have my doubts on just how far Milwaukee can go, but they're going to definitely need Kyle Kuzma to step up and be another option for that team as well, at least in my opinion. The New York Knicks, I want to stay in the East real quick. The Knicks are going to need a lot. I think not only are they going to need Jalen Brunson to play like an absolute superstar, they're going to need Mitchell Robinson to step up, right? When you look at the fact that the Knicks are 0-7 against the Cavs, the Thunder, and Boston combined, there's some definitely concerns about that team, and hopefully this team is ready and prepared, and Tom Thibodeau has them playing with that edge that we know Tom Thibodeau teams can play with, right? But they are going to really need that if they're going to make it far and make some noise here in the playoffs in that Eastern Conference. Like, not to knock the Knicks, but I still think Cavs and Boston are so head and shoulders above those guys that if they really want to go far and take this, and I don't think going to the second round should be a surprise for the Knicks. They need to get past that. They're going to have to really get over that hurdle and prove that they can get over the hump and beat some of those upper echelon teams in this Eastern Conference. Can they do it? I'm sure that they have it in them, right? Mitchell Robinson coming back adds a different dynamic. You need to get Jalen Brunson back healthy. And I think with what this team's learning with Brunson being out of some games now, that's going to be important for them to continue to do. So I'm not going to knock the Knicks, but I do think the Knicks, they have a lot that they still need to prove between now and the end of the season before I feel comfortable picking them to go on any type of postseason run. Same thing with the Indiana Pacers, right? This is a team they're going to need luck. And I think this is the team in the Eastern Conference that the matchups and the seeding is going to matter the most to them, if I'm being 100% honest. Not to say they're a great offense, make no mistake about it, right? And as the fifth seed, they're going to need to hope that one of the other superpowers knock each other out, right? If they really want to go, further than expect. Right now, they be in the 4-5 matchup with the Milwaukee Bucks. I do think the Pacers can get past that, but they're going to have to hope that one of the Celtics, the Cavs, and the New York Knicks knock each other out so then they can have a little bit of an easier path there. Like I said, they're the team in the Eastern Conference especially that I'm looking at and saying the matchups matter the most to them there, right? And again, my personal opinion, you guys can let me know if you vary on that one. The Los Angeles Lakers, health. It just comes down to health. They're going to need a little luck. They don't have the necessary depth. The Lakers are the only team other than the Houston Rockets who their top 3 players per usage rate don't have at least a +5 or almost double, and +5's minimum. Most of them have a double-digit net rating. And the Lakers' top 3 of Austin Reeves, Luka Doncic, and LeBron don't have that yet. Now, chemistry is a part of that, and they're going to need to be healthy to keep building that chemistry because they did come together late in the season. But that's something to definitely look out for that Lakers team. They need to figure that out. If they don't, I just don't know how far that they can realistically go, especially with their frontline depth not being the greatest. They're in the bottom half of the league as far as fast break points, second chance points given up, right? And so while being in the bottom half themselves on them scoring in that area, they need a lot to really try to push that further, and let's hope that they can do that. So we'll see what the future does hold for them there, man. But that is one thing that's holding them back for sure. Next up, Denver. They're going to need Jamal Murray to go Super Saiyan in the playoffs. That just is what it is. Like, especially in certain matches, we know what Jokic is and what Jokic can be. He needs that help. Him, Jamal Murray, Russ, and Jokic have all looked really good when they're out on the court. They have a really good net rating and things when they're out there together. But if they really want to be at a championship level, look at what Murray had to do the last time they won a title, right? When they won that title, they needed Murray to be on an absolute heater. He's going to have to be that in the playoffs, absolutely, if they're going to want to go through that. He's had a solid season, right? He's had a really good season. No doubt of that. And we've seen some glimpses of playoff Jamal Murray in there, and hopefully he's just storing it up and ready for it to go, but he has to lock in for that. He really has to lock in. Next up, the Boston, getting towards the top now, the Boston Celtics. Here's the thing. The Boston Celtics just need to hit that switch. Now, are they at danger of, like, with Drake hitting the red button and maybe it not happening? Maybe. You never know. But the Celtics season hasn't been bad, hasn't been disappointing unless you just expected them to run through the league unencumbered. But I do think that they have to prove that they have that switch to hit. And that happens through a lot of teams after they win their first title, right? They understand how to pace it better. They understand the rigors that it takes to really win a title at the NBA level. And so because of that, they may again, pace themselves really. I don't want to say they're taking their foot off the gas, so to say, but there has been times where definitely you could tell that this team, again, coasting isn't the right word, but they've chilled a little bit. They're going to have to flip that switch. This is not going to be one of those playoffs where you're going to be facing off against teams that are missing a key player with injury in every round that you go through. So they got to be locked in if the Celtics really want. And again, let me make sure this is one the teams that I'm talking about now. These are teams where if they don't win a title, it's disappointing into their season. So the Celtics, because it is disappointing if they don't at least make it to the NBA Finals, they got a tall test ahead of them. They got to hit that switch, especially in the Eastern Conference, and run through those opponents. And play at a different level in a different tier. They have to, right? And then that only leaves two teams left. The OKC Thunder, right? The Thunder just have to have health. And I think at that point in time, they just have to not worry about how much experience they have, not worry about how much they can hit threes, go out there and play basketball. Yes, they have flaws. They are not a flawless team at all, right? And they've made it to the second round of the postseason last year. They need to make it further. Now it's time to take that next couple of steps further. And they cannot allow themselves to second guess themselves. That's really what it comes down to. This team has been so sound, no matter who they're missing, things like that. If they have health, there's no reason to think that for them not to be the favorite to make it out the Western Conference. But they got tests in front of them, and they cannot allow the experience from other teams of going further in runs to get in their head. They're going to have to perform at that level. They're going to have to perform as veterans. They got guys like Alex Caruso, right, who's won a title, things like that. And he's going to be an important part of that defense at least. They need to be prepared, right? They got to be ready for this round of playoffs, because if they're not, they can have a disappointing end to this playoff run for them. And so, not to say that I'm necessarily predicting that, but they've dominated this whole entire season. The last thing that you want to do is shit the bed in the playoffs after how dominant of a season, how historic you're winning these games and the margin that you're winning them by. The Thunder got to lock in. And if the Thunder do in the playoffs and don't allow the noise and the doubt and the criticism, you got to remember that you are the best team in the regular season for a reason. F all that other noise and experience. Go out there and perform like you can. And then with the Cleveland Cavaliers, the last team on it, I think when it comes down to who becomes the star in this playoffs other than Donovan Mitchell, this needs to be the season where one of these Cavalier players becomes an absolute, unquestioned star. That's what you need from these guys. They have to become a star. If they do not, it's going to be disappointing. We know what we can get from Donovan Mitchell, right? We know what we've seen from Donovan Mitchell. Hell, he's dropped 50 pieces several times, but you're going to need a Darius Garland. You're going to need an Evan Mobley. You're going to get one of those guys to have a breakout postseason to where they are walking away from this looking like absolute studs if you really want to come away from this and not be disappointed. And make no mistake about it, just like with the OKC Thunder, if the Cavs don't at least make it to the finals, it's a disappointing season for them because of how well they've performed over the course of this regular season. They got to lock in. They got to get it done. I think that they can. Let's see. Let's hope that they can. And we'll see what the future does hold there. But overall, I'll say this. If either the Cleveland Cavaliers or the OKC Thunder, and listen, much as I'm a pessimist as I am, one of those teams are not going to make it to the finals. If they do, great, right? But one of those teams, there's a high probability one of those teams do not make it to the finals. I can't wait to see how they rebound and build off of it if they do from that disappointment, because they ain't going to want to feel that again. But let me know what you guys think on all that down below. Make sure you guys are following the show at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. Then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, The number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related. And I'll see you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.